Okay. All right, recording's in progress. Here we are, roaming freely inside the cage. We're going to be starting on type 8 tonight. Page 89 is where we're going to start. We are continuing on in chapter 5, types 5, 8, and 2. So we finished we finished type 5 last week, and we're going to dive into type 8. Who are our type 8s? I think Sharon's a type 8, yeah? And Ellen is a type 8. Bill is a type 8. Oh, good. We got some people to kick around tonight. This is great.
Fodder.
Fodder, cannon fodder. Yes, absolutely. I love it. Grist. They're grist and fodder. How about that? Pretty cool.
Gonna be full of yang energy tonight.
Woo-hoo!
Oh
Let's
yeah,
go
there you
for
go.
it.
Ooh.
Yeah, high testosterone yang types are going to be jumping in here. All right.
Hi, hi, William.
William's here. Hi, William. Great to see you. And Marion. Marion's here.
Marion.
There she is.
Oh,
Hi,
Isn't she
Marion.
cute?
Yes, she is.
All right. Let's before we jump in, is there anything from last week that anyone wanted to bring up? Any old business, anything that you've been chewing on for the week that needs more development discussion?
You sure you want to go there? It was such a lively conversation.
It was an amazing conversation last week. Absolutely. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and let's just dive into type 8. But before we do that, let's take a little bit of time to situate types 8 again. Go back to page 5, and let's just kind of remember, what is type 8? So on page 5, near the top of the page, 8s are the protectors. So that's the one-word kind of description. These are strong, direct people who are concerned with justice and fair play. However, their all-or-nothing style often seems overbearing to others and can be exhausting to themselves. Sharon, Ellen, Bill. Does that sound like y'all?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Of the 3 centers of excellence, 8s are body types, the little wheel on the bottom of page 5. Just imagine that, okay, Sharon, on the bottom of page 5, there's a wheel there. So they're body types. That's the center of experience. And then as far as the energy that Ellen just alluded to, they are yang. So unbalanced, they go to yang. Just like 9s go to yin, 8s go to yang. Their passion is lust, which is understood probably better as excess. Lust is now such a loaded word for us. So excess. And the point of avoidance is vulnerability. All right, so we're kind of getting a personality type, kind of a caricature here. So they are protectors, they're body centers of experience, they're yang, body, yang, and then lust or excess is the passion and vulnerability. So just with that as backdrop, let's drop into what their holy idea, understood as truth, is. So the holy idea of type 8 is called holy truth. Truth in this context has nothing to do with propositional accuracy. And this is so important to understand. This is what I'm trying to get across often with the scriptures. You know, I say that to the ancients, accuracy and truth were not the same thing. As Westerners, when we approach the scriptures, we want to approach them with empirical accuracy. And for us, something is only true if it's accurate, right? And it's accurate if it's true. But we see those as equivalents, and to the ancients, not so. And to the holy idea, or the whole idea of the holy idea of truth, it's not the same thing either. So truth in this context has nothing to do with propositional accuracy. In other words, it's not a concept in the head. It is not about the truth of any concept or idea. Type 8 shares the creative and expansive energy of type 3, since type 8 also possess an energy that is unbalanced toward yang. However, the 8 is a body type and experiences the energy viscerally rather than emotionally. The 8 infant's experience of holy truth is one of gut level openness to the life energy's quality of authentic presence. So this idea of authentic presence. Truth is the intuited certainty that the entire field of chi is one buzzing, sizzling actuality that cannot ever be divided or diminished. And so this is starting to sound a lot like five, right? Remember how the five was seeing everything as one consciousness that was indivisible. Sandra Maitri points out that holy truth is the awareness that nothing happens in one part of the field. Let me start that again. Sandra Maitri points out that holy truth is the awareness that nothing that happens in one part of the field can in any fundamental way be opposed to anything happening in any other part. Truth is the instinctive experience of the life force as a wholeness that is simultaneously indivisible and multidimensional, and the immediate awareness that this energy cannot ever move against itself. In this sense, holy truth is almost a mirror image of type 5's holy omniscience and transparency. Recall that the 5 infant is most sensitive to how each part of the chi field interpenetrates every other. This is also true of the 8 infant. But whereas the focus of the 5 is more from the inside looking out, the focus of the 8 is from the outside looking in. The 5 knows the ocean wholly from within one drop of water. The 8 senses the entire ocean at once.
Wow.
All right. Does this raise any immediate questions or comments?
So is the 5 opposite of the 8?
No, not the opposite.
Huh?
No, not the opposite. No. I mean, there are some commonalities between the two, and then there's obviously differences as well. You know, as we go further on, this is the fifth type that we have. It's type 5, and it's the fifth type that we've gone through so far. And we're going to find there's a lot of commonalities between the types as he starts to break them down this way. You know, I don't know if you're already seeing patterns, you know, that are similar between the types, but generally speaking, that's going to be the case as we go through. So we're going to see these parallels and commonalities between the two. And we're also going to find that some of the traits that he is pointing out for a certain type is also going to be applicable to our type or any type. It's just general human experience. But it's going to be more prominent in the type that he's discussing. Does that make sense? In other words, there's not such hard and fast lines between these types as we might originally assume. There's more overlap. There's more bleed through. But was there anything in there that was not clear or immediately created some resistance? What are you smiling and laughing about, Lori?
Lots of stuff is unclear. I mean, this is the kind of thing where I could do the whole book study a paragraph at a time. You know, because like it feels like every line needs that kind of illumination. But I will at least bring up, recall that the 5 infinite is most sensitive to how each part of the chi field interpenetrates every other. Can you expand on that for me?
Mm-hmm. The idea is that what the 5 is seeing in chi is the original source energy. All right. And so you've got that energy, and it looks like it's breaking down as we experience it in life into different types of energy, but all those different types of energy are really the same source. They're all interpenetrating, they're all connecting with each other. So they're all really, if you want to think of it, kind of like the Big Bang. You know, you've got one thing that explodes outward, and as it cools, it condenses into all the myriad different bits and pieces and particles and elements that we see in the observable universe. But if you roll it backwards, it's just one thing, right?
And the
it's sort
8
of the
and
same
5
thing here
both
with
see
the
that,
chi
but they
field,
see
the
it
chi
from
energy.
different. Oh,
You know, they're all interpenetrating each other. They're all part of the same thing. And so the 5 infant is sensing that, the oneness of that energy, the oneness of that consciousness, if you will.
And the 8?
Did that help, or did that just muddy the waters
No,
further?
I just get stuck on words, and then as soon as, we'd spend a little time. I'm slow. I'm really slow. Thank you.
But see, for me, in my interpretation as an 8, and maybe Bill and Sharon can jump in, but my experience is an 8. But to be an 8, to challenge something, I had gone through the 5 process. I had gone through the thinking, the analysis, the observation. Then I go to the challenging, if it's challengeable, you know. So without going through these conceptual words and so on, that is my experience in real life.
So you identified, also as a 5, right, Ellen?
Yes.
Okay. But I see you primarily as a mental type, no? Rather
Yeah,
than a body type, which would be more
I
5.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just my experience of you, that you really
Oh, okay.
process things mentally more than viscerally.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That's up to you to really say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that would be a distinction as well. And just what you said, you process things conceptually first, and then it moves
Uh-huh.
moves from there. If
Uh-huh.
you guys go back to page 82, maybe just to put a little bit finer point on what Laura's question was in that second full paragraph, the Enneagram tradition describes the holy idea of type 5 with 2 names, holy omniscience and holy transparency. Holy omniscience refers to the spiritual intuition that everything is an expression of one original awareness. And holy transparency refers to the perception that every individual being is totally and completely illuminated by that same awareness. Okay, so any type 5, like its neighbor 6, is our mental types, but unlike 6, whose energy is reconciling, the energy of type 5 is yin. Okay, that's getting off point. I think those 2 sentences there, and everything is an expression of the one original awareness. Holy transparency is perception that every individual being is totally and completely illuminated by that same awareness. So now if we go back to page 89, type 8 shares the creative and expansive energy of type 5. Um, I'm sorry, creative and expansive energy of type 3, since type 8 also possesses an energy that is unbalanced toward yang. However, the 8 is a body type and experiences the energy viscerally rather than emotionally. I'm not in the right place. Where did I really want to go? Oh, I think where was that line that you read?
It's down at the bottom of the first paragraph. The 5, whereas the 5 is more from the inside. Oh no, I've already moved on. Sorry. Recall that the 5 infant is most sensitive to how each part of the chi field and penetrates every other.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's where I meant to be. So that has to do with seeing everything as part of the original awareness, and every being, everything that you experience is also a part of that as well. So everything is interpenetrating each other. It's all part of the whole. That's why at the end, the 5 knows the ocean wholly from within one drop of water. So the drop of water is interpenetrating the whole ocean. Type 5 is going from the inside out and seeing how self is part of the ocean. He says the 8 is going from the outside in and senses the entire ocean at once. No?
Wow.
That not making sense?
Wow. Yeah, it
Wow.
makes sense. It sounds overwhelming. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it sounds overwhelming.
Well, you 8s, is this even ringing true with you 3 8s? Are you resonating with it at all?
Sure.
Okay. So did
It
that
we
last
feel
line make sense?
overwhelmed all the time. Yeah.
Okay. And all right, but you're overwhelmed. Is it because that you're sensing everything at once and not being able to more break it down into bite-sized pieces, or what would you say?
For me, I tend to sense things all at one time.
Okay.
It's hard for me to slow down and break it down, and that's when I'm successful at that is when I tend to go into my 5
Mhm.
part and tend to become my researcher and my, kind of pull away and start digging into information. And that helps me to become less overwhelmed, is the breaking things down
Mhm.
step by step and little by little rather than trying to eat the whole thing at one time. But it does come at me all at one time. And it can be very exhausting.
See, so now that's interesting because as a five, I approach things in the exact opposite way. So I get input and I am immediately breaking it down and looking at the constituent parts and how they form the whole rather than getting the whole slamming me in the face and then breaking it down later. So that's just inherently the way we're wired. It's not that anyone is right or wrong. You're eventually going to get to the same place, hopefully, and especially the more balanced we get, the more that we have all these tools at our disposal. But that's interesting. Now, Bill, would you say it's the same kind of thing? Do you get overwhelmed by the whole first?
I've had early in life, I was taught how not to be overwhelmed, but that didn't really result in anything good. So I allowed myself to be overwhelmed for a while, and now I've changed from overwhelmed to acceptance. So I can see the whole thing without being frightened by it now.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
that's
that tends to be the
fairly
way you
recent.
first experience something is
Something new is like nothing surprises me anymore. It's kind of a silly way of saying it. But yeah,
but you do see holistic first, holistic.
yes, holistic
Okay.
has come back to being the first thing.
Cool. Okay.
I used to work with a type 8 when I was doing the substance abuse program. I think you know Aaron Goldberg. He used to spend some time over there
Oh
at
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. I remember. Sure.
he had an uncanny ability to see how all the pieces fit together. And it was something that came to him almost without effort. Like just being able to see the big picture and how all the pieces matched. And I guess the shadow side or the negative side of that is when one thing was out of place, he reacted like everything was out of place.
I can relate. Yep.
Interesting. Yeah.
Which was often with this like an overreaction, like that kind of masculine energy,
Yeah.
which, was sometimes a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah. Well, now that just sounds like the total classic eight. Wow.
Yeah.
The yang, overwhelming yang, and wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Well, and one of the things that I've read about eights too is that they have a survival strategy to try to be in control in order to protect themselves or others. So maybe in that puzzle piece scenario, William, perhaps if that gentleman saw one piece of puzzle was out of whack, he might have thought, I'm out of control, or I can't put this all together in my mind. I've got to get it back into control.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because they don't like vulnerability. They don't want to show weakness. Yeah.
Extending that ocean analogy, you can see the whole thing, or at least I feel like as an eight, I can see the whole thing all at once, but swimming in it is really a chore. So that's the part I had to learn how to do. I've had to learn how to float, I think is to make the analogy complete. Like to trust my buoyancy.
That's a good way to put it. I
Got
like
your little
that.
floaties on, Bill, right?
Yeah.
Good. I'll keep you above
How to
water.
let go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Because you can't float if you're stiff. You have to
Right.
Mhm.
Relax.
relax into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
Anything to add, Ellen 8?
I think yes, I can see something as a whole first, and it can feel overwhelming. I think over the years I've taught myself to compartmentalize,
Yeah.
right? And so that you deal with one thing at a time. Later on, you synthesize everything, and everything works out well.
Mm.
Do you choose the easiest task first, Ellen?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. No, not the easiest, but the priority first,
Mm.
which could be the easiest, or it could be all you need is to tighten that screw, right?
Mhm.
And everything else flows into place.
Well, that's sounding more five-ish than eight-ish, buddy. Dear.
But see, if it doesn't work, and then like we have an example at work, and it's really, to me, it's like I can see how inefficient it is. But Ellen, it's new. You're always negative. You always don't want to try new things. I go, I do try new things as long as they improve our lives.
Mhm.
But see, they don't see the bigger thing. It is causing, they have to put in the lot number, and then they have to do this and to do this, whereas we didn't before because it's a new machine.
Mm.
So what can I do? I just have to accept it. I can't buck the system. If they cannot see it, they cannot see it. I'm not in charge of the process. I was just pointing it out to the lead nurse, right? The charge nurse.
I share that, Ellen, because I have real problems with technology that's broken.
Mm.
No.
And it's worse when it's broken from a design point of view and you can't
Right.
fix it. I mean, even if they were to fix it, it would still be broken.
Right. But see, that's the thing too. When we do our electronic records, I can say, if you can have an iPhone that works like this, and if you can send people to the moon, this should not be that hard. I am not an app designer. I know I cannot do this. But if I am one, I know I could figure it out.
Mm.
Well, we
You're
can
like,
take
then
comfort now.
you want
Huh?
efficiency is what you want. Yeah.
Efficiency and make it user-friendly.
Yeah, elegance. Like make it.
Elegant, efficient. The simplest is more elegant.
I
It
am
is.
sensing a rabbit trail, so I'm going to pull us
Oh,
back in
okay.
again.
All right.
Let's
Just going back to my ex-business partner, one of the most common word phrases out of his mouth is, "Oh, that person is an idiot," right? Like because he was one of those guys, like because he intuitively saw things and how all the pieces matched or meshed. When other people couldn't see it, his first assumption is that person is a moron.
Yeah. But William, I have to tell you too this. This is my confession. I have to shut my mouth because I do recognize intellectual arrogance in me too,
Mm,
right? Not the others are not idiots,
mm,
right? And they have other ways that they see things that I don't. Yeah. And I'm very poor in emotional intelligence, just FYI, okay?
mm.
Very poor.
Well, William, I like that comment because I think that just triggered that my dad was an 8.
Ah,
Because he used the word idiot a lot
Ah.
about his coworkers and everybody. So
yeah,
Mm.
I can see he was very intellectually smart.
right.
Mhm.
He knew more
I
than
prefer
everybody.
idjit,
No,
right, Marion?
but I
Idjit.
remember I was working with this attending. I'm not sure, he's a new pediatrician, and he was saying, and he was condescending actually, and he goes blah, 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 blah. And I remember saying to myself, and I don't say it verbally, but I say, he thinks he has a monopoly on intelligence.
Mm.
Yeah, that is my thing, but that's my arrogance too,
And
right?
we're still on the bunny trail.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
All right.
you're really not, Dave, because my notes on 8 say that they can be egocentric, demeaning, and feel they must control their environment. Sometimes they can be
Yeah.
confrontational and intimidating. So all of this is
Okay.
part of the whole scenario.
Thank you,
Very-
Kathy.
Yeah.
Making the
Okay.
bunny trail relevant. I love it.
Okay, but if you go back to page 5, when you say 8, the last line says seems overbearing to others. When Jennifer, you said about your dad, I know there's one medical assistant in my clinic. She thinks I'm mean and overbearing. And I'm saying, wait, the other 10 were okay. What's wrong
Mm.
with you? So I don't say that, right? But still, that is in my head.
Sounds like my dad.
9 out of 10, like the dentist said, 9 out of 10 says this.
Mm.
What, to me too, I see the bigger picture. What's
Mm.
wrong, right? Where is that weakest link?
I
Mm.
love it.
Well,
You know, one
remember,
of
you
the
can.
things as being an 8 is I would focus in, I guess it's a seeing everything all at once, but trying to make it work, I would get so frustrated and hyper focused on it, on all of it at one time. And that's where Dave's teaching has come in to help me so much in the kind of surrender and letting go and letting go of that control, and that well, and Al-Anon and ACA and all of those, and helping to realize that I'm not in control of the outcome.
Mm.
When, boy, it was the outcome that I would had a stranglehold on. And I really felt that that's where my focus was on the outcome and having to control that. And I was fixated on it. And the teachings of the letting go and the giving it to God and leaning back and resting, that's really been a saving grace for me as an 8. It's really kind of changed the game for me, where I've been able to release that end and let go of the outcome.
Mm. Karen,
So
you're doing great, even without a book. Love it.
even
Love it.
I thought you were going to say even without an outcome.
without an outcome. Yeah.
Now, here's something that I find really interesting. This first paragraph that we just read, which is the only thing we've read so far on Type 8, was all about the ideal condition of the 8 infant in holy truth. And look how we went all the way out to all the unbalanced parts of the 8. We immediately went there, right? So, but really what we've been talking about so far is what the 8 ideally sees in that pristine, unwounded state. It's seeing everything as authentic presence, seeing everything as one thing. And so that's the thing to keep in mind. So that 8 infant is seeing everything as one. The energy, the chi, everything is one and everything is a part of it. They see the whole, they see it holistically. And it's not all broken down, it's not in opposition to each other, any of that. But now at the bottom of page 89, we're going to move into the initial wounding and the subsequent development. So here's where it all starts to go pear-shaped, right? The 8 infant, sensitive as he is to the original energy's dynamic unity, that's the unity part, experiences embodiment, that is being born into the world, into a universe physically dispersed into time and space as a tremendous threat. So the 8 infant initially sees everything as one thing, is going to see their experience of embodiment as a tremendous threat. Many 8s I have known carry a conscious memory of a time when it seemed they were about to be annihilated out of being. I believe many other 8s carry this as an unconscious trauma. It is as though the 8 infant came to feel that some part of being was opposed to his own being and lost sight of his indivisible energetic unity to it as a result. Wow. It's like you're at war with the cosmos, the universe, God, right? As holy truth was lost, the 8 felt progressively more cut off from the wholeness of the life force, lost in one tiny physical body floating in a sea of dualities. The result was the arising of a strong sense of separateness. Self versus other, right versus wrong, light versus dark, male versus female, human versus divine. It seemed to the young 8 that a terrible thing had happened. He didn't know what this terrible thing was. He simply sensed that something was profoundly wrong. And to make matters worse, the 8 felt that he had allowed this terrible thing to happen, that the 8 had allowed this terrible thing to happen, and was personally responsible for the loss, and thus personally obliged to redress it.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So when everyone was talking about the 8s, and I said, I think that was my dad. Okay. And he would get so angry at us kids that, I mean, it was verbal abuse. And I feel like a lot of the things you guys are describing, like, even though I am not anywhere near being an 8, I feel like I kind of understand a lot of these things because we kids were petrified when my dad wanted us kids to do something like help him with changing the spark plugs on the car. And he'd say, give me a crescent wrench. And we'd hand it under the auto. And he'd scream his head off at us if we handed him the wrong tool, to the point where we were shaking, holding the tool. And is it this? And I feel like a lot of these things that you guys are describing, it's like, wow, I think this way in certain situations. And I'm wondering, could I have gotten those even though I wasn't born that way because of my reaction to my dad?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and let's be careful not to lay too much at the foot of the Enneagram, okay? Because there's a lot of other things, and maybe William is a better person to address this. There's a lot of other things that are going to go into the mix of the personality of the adult. You know, there can be personality disorders, there can be all kinds of trauma and PTS or all sorts of other things that are layered up on top of, you know, the Enneatype as it has developed in a person. William, you want to say anything about that?
No, I, it's impossible for us to not have a reaction or be shaped by the people who shape us, right? Um, so it's impossible to not be impacted by somebody with that kind of presence, right? Where, like the eights, they say when a type eight walks into a room, you notice them, right? Like they're intense people. They have that vibration about them. Um, and for the eight, like when they're blowing up at something, it's not a big deal for them, right? It's just part of how they're communicating, right? It's the way I think of it is like if I'm hammering a nail in and I bend the nail, I might curse or something, right? And you know, if I'm an eight, that's just how you put a table together, right? But the people around me might experience that as me getting loud and slamming doors and things of that nature. But for the eight, like that kind of intensity is like that lust. Like the lust is a lust for intensity. And that's just where they live.
And don't they, it sounds like they need things, the puzzle to be put back together.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
like
can
there's
see
like this intensity around that.
I can see that. Like when something is out of place, right?
Based
Like,
on what Dave was just reading, is what I'm thinking.
mhm.
That passage. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just add too, there's also a happy side of an eight too, that I have a cousin who's a doctor and she is clearly an eight. And she says, I love to walk into a room and mix it up. I want to start debating people and I love it. It stimulates me and it gets me going. And if she's in a room with a bunch of nines who don't like conflict, they're all barreling away and hiding. But you've got this eight who loves this environment. They live for stimulation and they don't mind debate. And so there's that side of it too. So I don't know if your father was like that too, Jennifer. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but Kathy, she might just be Jewish. You know, because if you've got three Jews, you've got five opinions. That's the way that works.
Your deadpan was spot on, Dave.
Well, she's got
Bunny
German, German in her, but she doesn't have the Jewish side. But
well,
all right.
bunny trail or not, this is a fascinating discussion. I love it.
No, this isn't the bunny trail. This is good stuff here. I think the thing that I wanted to is that the Enneatype is going to be part of the story, but not the whole story. There's going to be so much more that is a shaper of our personalities, and there can be personality disorders on top of that. And so we just got to make sure that we're not laying too much at the feet of the Enneatype. But this is going to give us a general direction and a general predilection of each of us towards certain ways of dealing with our environment, especially when we're out of balance. So we're going to see these things. So, but there's more to the story.
Jennifer, I'm curious, what do you identify as?
I'm a one. I'm a one.
What's one? Oh, perfectionist.
Yeah.
Richard Ward identifies as a one too. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to identify, but that's what I've tested as. And with actually Pastor Dave's explanations. I'm working on all the subliminal things that I wasn't aware of, so that I feel like, yeah, I am a one. I worked on the topical things that I knew, but then when he started talking about observing when you're under stress, I realized I wasn't even aware of those things. So I'm working on those things now, and it's really helping a lot.
Be a proud one, Jennifer. There's nothing wrong with ones, unless there is.
Well, when when you have obnoxious behavior like my dad did, you just want to be socially, I do want to be more peaceful and loving. And
And
yeah,
you can do
I don't
that.
want to be all the nasty things that I can be.
That's what the whole point of the Enneagram
Yeah.
is to move beyond the limitations or the unbalanced parts of our personality back
And
to
I think you're helping this Bible study is really uncovering a lot of tools for me.
Great. Great. That's
But
perfect.
can I add one more thing about ones? Ones, and Kathy, you can say this with your physician cousin. Ones do very well in healthcare. I have a one aspect. We are very, very meticulous because 0.1 of insulin is very different from 0.01. And you never put a trailing decimal ever. You take out the left eye, not the right. This is Jose Martinez, not Jose whatever. You know what I
Ellen, is
mean?
there any type you're not identifying with? Every
Well,
time
does
you
that
turn
mean
around, there's another type that you identify with.
well, wait a minute. I'm challenging you. Does that mean I'm balanced? I'm just being sarcastic, okay?
Oh,
No, I'm
No,
not.
it's
I'm
a
very
great question.
unbalanced.
It's a great question. I'm an 8-1-2.
Thank you. I love
Last time I
you.
got around to testing for this
Yeah.
course, I was a 4. And it's like 4? That's not even in my wheelhouse.
Yeah. See, that's the thing too. I tested 4 times actually. Twice was 8, twice was 5. But I love what William said, that I'm a skeptic, which is I am too, actually.
That's why you tested multiple times.
Yeah, I know. I said,
Can't be
what
right.
will
Gotta be
come
like,
out this time?
Interesting. Well,
What
and
will come out
That's
this
2 points for William.
Thank you.
in
William,
protection
wouldn't
of,
that be schizophrenic?
and in protection of 8s too. I mean, if I'm going on a surgery table, I probably want to have egotistical maniac 8 walking in there with a scalpel.
Yeah,
I don't want somebody who's going to be tentative.
I want the
somebody who's
perfectionist.
under
I want the
control. I
perfectionist.
want the perfectionist. I want
Right.
somebody who knows what
Right.
they're doing. Right.
Right.
So
Oh yeah, my
we need
surgeon.
them.
I want my surgeon to be the most narcissistic,
Most exactly,
overconfident
most
egomaniac
egotistical
on the
8
planet.
possible.
Right?
That's right.
Okay. Let's continue on, shall we? If you are an 8, and we know we've got 3 such types here, it was around such a knothole that your ego crystallized. And this was that sense, of this terrible thing that has happened and you're responsible for it and so on and so forth that has separated you out. Given your tendency to process experience kinesthetically, big word that means that you have a body reaction, right? You transform the intuition that something bad had happened into an almost visceral sense of being bad yourself. And given that you possessed a type of energy that naturally moves outward, you then projected that sense of badness onto the world. You transformed guilt into blame. After all, better to blame someone else than yourself. Your natural way of relating to the world was to engage directly. And blaming others simply transformed that tendency into a propensity to engage through attack. As you turned more and more outward, you became more and more unconscious, or to use Gurdjieff's term, you fell more deeply asleep. In order to restore some sense of your lost inner source of energy, you created a counterfeit version of it, a passion for excess, and over-the-top living called lust, which is the vice type of 8. Lust represented the ultimate distortion of your original yang energy. Underneath, you avoided at all costs any feeling of being a vulnerable, hurt child. Okay, so now we're seeing a little bit further into the development of the personality of the 8 from the initial wounding that takes them out of the infant's experience. The fundamental illusion of type 8 is that life is war. Wow. Since the ego believes that being is against its continued survival, the ego thinks it can survive only by being against what seems threatening, unjust, or wrong. It is like the collective madness we encounter in nations or cultures that have been fighting one another for centuries. Each attack is responded to with a counterattack in the illusory belief that only continued aggression will protect security and produce peace. So this is kind of that honor shame societies that we talk about, right? If something is perpetrated from one tribe to another, an individual from one tribe to another tribe, that's a loss of honor. It's a shameful thing. And then that has to be responded to in order to restore honor. And then that has to be responded to, and so on and so forth. And it's a never-ending cycle that can just be devastating. Hatfields and McCoys, right? So that's why Hammurabi's code, the whole idea of reciprocity or the law of retribution was established in the first place. An eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth, was to limit the excesses of the honor shame constant cycle. Even though the code itself sounds really harsh, it's still better than what was there before. But here he is talking about the eights actually kind of being in this place internally, seeing themselves at odds with everything. And the way that you can counteract that is to go on the attack. Interesting. It is the mindset of the warrior who returns from the front unable to live an ordinary life. His senses have been sharpened to watch for every sign of danger, and his instincts honed to respond quickly and without thinking. The quietness of ordinary life seems almost unbearable, and he is likely to stir up trouble simply to make the outside world correspond better to his inner vision of it. Yeesh. Now that sounds exhausting.
Dave, there was this line in The Matrix, I think it was the second one, where Neo was on his way to see the Oracle, and the person who met him to guide him started by fighting with him. And he asked him, like, why did you fight with me? And he said, you don't know somebody until you fight with them. And I think the eights approach life in that way. Like when the eights butt head with people, it's almost like bumping chest, right? It's a way of saying hello. You know? And if you cower from them, they lose respect for you. But if you stand up to them, you can find a friend there. And that toughness, that gruffness of how they greet people is not, it's not always an intentional, being an asshole kind of thing. It's more like, let me see what you're made of.
Oh my gosh,
Connecting here, yeah.
William, you're such a crystal ball person.
Oh, I'm just echoing what I've heard other people say. Don't give me too much credit.
When you said that this is how eights say hello, it reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where the German woman gives Indiana Jones this really long kiss and says, "This is how we say goodbye in Austria." And then the German Third Reich guy comes up and smacks him in the face and say, "This is how we say goodbye in Germany." I think I like the Austrian.
Yeah.
But that's a great point, and we'll misinterpret that. And until you do stand up. I remember there was this guy in our church when Marion and I first joined our church, and Scott was there too. And he I don't know if he was an eight, he might have just been an a-hole. But at any rate, he had a seat staked out. If anyone got in a seat, he literally would tell them to move. And he did this one time on a Sunday, and I go right up to him and I got right in his face, which is so uncharacteristic for me because I never do this. But I just said, "We don't do that here." And from that point on, it's like we had this newfound respect and relationship that we never had before, which carried on for years. And we served in Mexico together and did all sorts of things together. But just that standing up. So what you're saying, William, was born out in that. And it's just interesting personality.
Yeah,
So I
because
wonder how what Judy's going to say if she stands up to her son-in-law, because that was totally a blueprint for my dad when he became too old and I had to become his power of attorney. He was yelling at me on the phone, and I was an adult, not a child. And I said to him, I said, if you keep yelling at me, I'm hanging up this phone.
Mhm.
And he completely, never in my life, he just got silent and he got nice.
Mhm.
And after that, we never had an issue while I was being his power of attorney. So I'm like in shock that had I known this when I was 8 years old, my life would be different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Jennifer. That really that reminded me, a memory came back to me when my dad we got into some kind of it was at a holiday dinner, and I think he had had a few glasses of wine, and he got really verbal about, politics, and I he was directing it at me, and I got up and walked from the table, and I was so angry at him. And I said, could you, and I asked him, can we talk in the back room, please? And I stood up to him just like that and just said, if you ever treat me like that again in front of all of these people, I am not going to be back at all.
Mm.
But he looked so shocked when I had said that. But he said, "Oh, okay. All right. Guess I'll have to think about that."
Mhm.
But it's very true, all these anecdotes.
Yeah.
So when you talked about your dad, Jennifer, so of course I don't know him. It's based on what you're saying, if he's an eight or something else. But me, if I was that child, and he says, "Give me the crescent wrench," and I don't know which one it is, and he got mad, and I'd say, "How would I know what a crescent wrench is if you never taught me what it is?"
Mm.
That's how I would have responded.
Mhm.
I'm dying to hear from eights or from the book. I'm hearing some super negative things about eights.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me
I'm
tell
just
you.
wondering.
No,
What
I'm
is
not
positive
hearing
Read on
negative.
Them
and
about
hear
ones
more.
too.
No,
I-
but to tell you the truth, I don't know about the others, eights, right? But when I'm listening to this, I don't hear negative. I'm hearing the
Oh.
truth. That
Mhm.
is me.
Yeah, but my dad was brilliant. He really was smarter. He was an engineer.
Hmm.
He was so smart. The Chicago airport had a combustible turbine, and he was in Milwaukee, and none of the engineers that were the manufacturer's rep could figure out how to get this hot temperature high enough so that it would power the combustion for the airport.
Wow.
And he went down there, and he was like their last chance before they were gonna, fire the firm or whatever. But he had this ability, this uncanny ability to see the holistic picture. He was brilliant.
Mhm.
And that he was frustrated because they wouldn't recognize how, he could go into a situation not knowing anything, and he knew everything.
Mhm.
And so, no, it isn't all negative. He had a lot, he was brilliant. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you're that smart, it's hard for you to be social.
Right. I agree. But let me tell you too what I had to learn over the years, and after counseling and over the years and with my children and my past, I had to learn humility.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's
Patient.
more important than being brilliant, actually.
Mm.
That's a very difficult lesson I had.
So sorry, Lori. I mean, I think we're just focusing on all the pain points.
I apologize.
Lori,
I just, yeah,
Lori,
no,
was there a
and I'm
second
also,
part to your observation? You said you're
Yeah.
hearing a lot of negative, but you wanted to hear from the book or from what was the other part of your thought?
oh no, I thought there's more to eights than I'm hearing,
Oh,
just because it
obviously
was,
there is.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know, we Yeah.
It's
Since
not
eight,
just the
since
people
eight,
talking. I mean, we've only gotten that far. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
we've only got, and no,
Yeah.
since eights move into excess or lust, as we're calling it, their negative points maybe are more spectacular than some of the other Ennea types. But we've all got the same balance within us, positive and negative, and when things go, out of balance, where they go, and so on and so forth. So, but
Mhm.
yeah, we've had a lot of
Brilliance, it sounds like a
enthusiastic
really big
anecdotes,
part of
shall we
it.
say, here tonight. So.
Mhm.
It's
I've
all
often
the
found that
numbers basically have their negative side and then their positive side. I mean, there are unhealthy, to all the numbers. Right now, we're talking about eights. So there are unhealthy eights, but there are also healthy eights that we, pull more into our positive,
Mhm.
where we deal with those negative traits and become healthy. Because there's good sides to eights too.
Mhm.
And
We
as
we just
well
haven't
as
found any
all.
yet, but yeah, okay.
Yes.
Well,
I
I
think
was surprised that Richard Rohr said that Mother Teresa was a type 8.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah.
But doesn't that make sense as a protector with the
Yes.
life's work?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
mean, let's think about it. Aren't there times when you definitely want an 8 by your side as a
Absolutely.
protector? I mean, my
they're
Oh, yeah.
strong,
gosh,
they're
who would be more
self-confident.
loyal? Who would be more present to you at times when you need it?
And
So yeah,
advocate for you.
Yeah, they're
absolutely.
self-confident
Mother
and
Teresa
assertive.
was,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Mother Teresa was very blunt.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she
And
was.
she just
Yeah.
told
Absolutely.
people exactly what she thought.
Mhm.
So
And
I
it
didn't
was
hear
so
you,
great
Ellen.
coming from little 4 foot nothing
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
woman,
right.
and she could
That's
speak truth to
amazing.
power like nobody's business, right?
Mhm.
That's
And
great.
and eights like ones can also be they're very justice oriented. If they see something that's not right, they want to fix it.
Yes.
They're protective of that kind of thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I
they're
love,
assertive,
I
they're
love,
self-confident. I mean, we certainly need them. I mean, we need that
of
self-confidence.
course, yeah.
Absolutely.
I was loving what Ellen said about truth,
Mhm.
because that's another aspect that it may be loud, it may come out loudly, but the focus is on telling the truth, finding the truth,
Mm-hmm.
helping someone see the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And they like authentic people.
Mm-hmm.
They can't
Right.
stand people who are not
That's
authentic.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of us say we want people to be authentic with us, but we don't.
What's wrong with the
So
kindness and gentleness?
Just sounds good on paper, right, William?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
but
it's a very, very real in that sense.
yeah.
There's a heaviness to the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think
Not
that's
only,
why they can be impatient too, because
yeah.
they like Jennifer, like your dad, they know so much. They're like 3 steps ahead of everybody. But
Yeah.
what a healthy eight will learn patience, or
Mhm.
maybe become a good mentor or teacher because they could take the time now, like take a deep breath and share with this
Yeah.
person what they need to know. I'm not going to just stomp all over them. So that's a healthy eight.
Yeah.
They can be good teachers.
Mm.
And I
So,
think every 8 that I know is a mechanic,
Really?
right?
You
Like
mean literally a
that
mechanic or?
engineer's brain of how all the pieces work together.
I don't know. Bill
And
just made a
that,
funny face, so I don't know.
yeah.
Are you not mechanical or an engineering mind, Bill?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was as a kid, lots of tinker toys and stuff, but I was thinking about software, and
Mhm.
it's a different kind of same, right?
yeah, it's the same. Yeah,
Mhm.
with software engineering. It's also putting pieces together and and
But that's what Bill did for decades. You're
yeah, yeah.
involved in software.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a part of his background as well.
Yeah.
So
And
let me tell you,
I was just say, Sharon, you put art together. I mean, there's some aspect of
yeah.
mechanics in a weird way, but your creativity is a process, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Hmm.
But let me tell you to the evaluation that I get from my colleagues that yes, I'm very direct and blunt.
Mhm.
If that's how Mother Teresa is. I mean, I'm glad to be
You're
part of
okay
her
to be.
group.
Good
I'm
You're in
okay.
good
No, but I
company.
can see her as a feisty 4 foot something woman who will
Mhm.
fight for me, who will fight for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, don't just make a virtue out of it, though. There's times for you to have some introspection as well, and some humility as well.
Yes. Well, I just told you, I admitted it in front of Zoom, in front of the whole world. I
All right.
humility.
It's recorded for
Very
posterity.
It's
cool.
recorded for prosperity.
Dave, she's going to turn over tables no matter what.
I
No.
know. I know. Usually they're my tables, so.
She's going to be a saint,
A saint who turns tables over.
Saint Mother Teresa,
I can
Saint
see
Ellen.
Ellen of Arc up on the ark.
I'm not a martyr. No,
Not a martyr.
no.
Okay, let's tie this section off. Read this last
really-
paragraph, and then we're going to be at time. So now in spiritual work, eights are often tempted to believe that they are in a veritable battle for their soul. The battle is at root a war to overcome duality. You know, I was thinking about this, maybe the church has an eight, because this idea of spiritual warfare was just an overpowering, worldview that caused you to constantly be looking over your shoulder and looking under every bush for the next, the next demon or whatever. It's just not a great way to live life. And they were talking about that in the unbalanced eight. But in spiritual work, the eights are tempted to believe that they are in a battle for their soul. They feel compelled to conquer the feeling that good and evil are divided. And this sense that good and evil have been divided can show up in one of two ways. The first way, eights can believe the division lies within their own soul, and they battle with it there. In the second way, they feel that the war is between them and those who are less enlightened, and they carry the battle outward. Either way, what stands between them and the perception of holy truth is the battle. What is this battle really about? And is it still necessary? Tune in next week to find out. So now we're going to move into the point of avoidance, of course, and the virtue and vice type for type 8. So that'll be next week. You know, one of the, as we were having this discussion, one of the things that I realized that I appreciated about the DISC system. Are you guys familiar with DISC? It's a workplace workplace style personality type test. Anyway, DISC, the D is dominant, the I is influencer, the S is security, and the C is conscientiousness. But one of the things that was cool about it is that you're identifying these 4 basic workplace styles. And Kathy as HR probably knows this really well. So how does a person who is focused more on security, which would be yin energy in our speak, and concerned about the harmony of the group and so on, how do they deal with the dominant style, who is your basic 1 or 8 and the CEO type? How do they talk to each other? And so what the DISC would do, as they broke down the styles and kind of illuminated them, was also saying, how do you best communicate with, approach, and work alongside this type? If you're an S, how do you deal with the D? If you're an I, how do you deal with the C? And they would go through scenarios and some even role play, and part of the way is with the D, you got to stand up to the D. They want direct communication, no beating around the bush. You come right to the point and tell them what it's kind of the inverted pyramid. Tell them the most important thing first, and then you can add description. I suppose I was just thinking Gibbs in NCIS. As soon as you try to give him any extraneous information, he cuts you right off. I don't need that. Give me this. And that would be the D type. But to give you cues and clues about how do you best interface with a type that is so different than yours, and realize that what you see as aggression in the D and complete condescension is just the D trying to get work done and be efficient. And they don't even understand that they'd be shocked that you actually took it that way. Really? That's not what I meant at all. Right?
Yeah.
Even Judy standing up to this person in the other room, did they even understand what they had done and why, or were they surprised that Judy took it that way? So these are the kind of things that we're dealing with in these types also, even though the Enneagram isn't giving us that specific kind of information. But it's something to think through as well.
And I also wanted to say that from Judy's comments that the 8 is most likely to be discussing politics and religion at a family dinner.
All the things they say you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right. One thing I wanted to add to the dominating piece It reminded me of something that was coded as a way of dealing with eight personality. Is like utilizing the three B's: be brief, be bold, be gone.
That is perfect.
Hey,
And just to throw it out there, we had the opposite situations. Dave, like your influencers, the eyes maybe, they were a little more social. So we had to actually coach managers to say, when you come in and have a staff meeting on Monday, you got to take 5 minutes and just ask everybody, how was their weekend? How's your pet? How's your daughter doing? How was the birthday party? And then you get into business.
Torture.
Everybody's like, he's so mean. He doesn't talk about it, but he's just trying to get his job done, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
It was
The
hilarious.
influences would be like your salespeople. They're going to
Yeah,
be the cheerleaders,
sales,
the energetic ones. They want to,
chatters,
they're all that.
personable.
The security people are the harmony ones, and the conscientious ones are the bookkeepers and the ones who are dealing with all the little factoids. And
Detail.
we need all four of those to have a functioning workplace, right? But how do they interface? How do they best connect? And so those
that.
insights I found really, really helpful, in the DISC system. And we can probably, infer some of that obviously in the Enneatypes as well.
Well, the biggest thing, and I'll just say it, but as you end, you have to care.
Mhm.
You have to care how you land. If you don't care, you're not going to be aware and you're not going to make any changes. And then life is tough,
Mhm.
And the
So
only
it's
way you can
nice
care is by being aware and
be
being
aware and
present
care.
to actually
Right.
see the other person and what they
That's right.
need, and then care enough to try to deliver it.
That's
So
right.
absolutely. So it's going to come
And
down.
it always surprises me when the eights get the sense that people don't like them. They're deeply wounded. Like that vulnerable inside is there. And they're really surprised that people take offense to them.
Mhm.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, everyone. This was a great conversation tonight.
I think it was
Really
my
enjoyed it. A
take
lot of fun.
through, Dave.
Thank
you.
Okay, and
Eight to the
Scotty,
eights.
take us home, buddy.
You got it. Thank you, Lord, for this time together and all the different types and personalities and orders and disorders and all the characteristics that we go through and experience. And life can be fun. It's a heck of a journey. It can be challenging too. So we keep you around. We practice what we preach and we do what we're supposed to do most of the time. But we also are cognizant of the fact that we don't get things right all the time. So let us relax and enjoy your presence as you encourage us and guide us and direct us and protect us. We thank you, Lord, for what's the right word here? I can't think of the word, Lord, but you know what I'm trying to say, and I'm sure everybody will get it when they are supposed to get it. So, Lord, just thank you for the night and thank you for the time together. And we love you, Lord. It's in your holy and precious name, Lord Jesus, that we pray and we give our thanks and we say our amens. Amen.
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 Thanks again,
God.
everyone. We'll see you on Sunday.
William, William,
Good night.
did you get that travel email that I sent to you?
The travel email? No,
Yeah.
I not.
I sent you an email that had a travel brochure, electronic travel brochure that talked about different places to live in the world and the costs and so forth. And it was really, really interesting. The only
I'll check it
off-putting
out.
thing was,
Mhm.
the off-putting thing was the cover art they used was some scantily dressed women in
A babe.
bikinis.
I'll definitely check it out.
And
Don't
here
say
we
I
are
never
on
give you
another
enough
bunny
attention.
trail, even as we're trying to say goodbye to each
That
other.
note, good
Yeah,
night,
it's
all.
okay.
Isn't that kind of nice?
Bye, Jordanis.
Hey, I
No,
never
you
said
know,
that,
William,
everybody.
that's a bait, okay?
Everybody
That-
stayed
that-
around
that-
for that one.
That picture is a
Dave,
bait. Don't
Dave,
click the bait.
Dave.
Hold on a
I
second. Let
just
me go
wanted
ahead
to
and
let you know I'm going to be I'm going to try to make church service on the 3rd of May.
Oh,
oh,
Okay.
fantastic. All
in
right. We'll be
person?
looking for you.
So
Okay,
yeah, I'm
wonderful.
gonna right now my life is pretty chaotic. I'll be houseless as of Monday. So I'm couch surfing with all my friends. So I'm gonna go stay with my girlfriend in Long Beach for a
Oh,
week.
good.
So
See you again.
yeah, so she was the one that said we'll drive down and
Oh, that's fantastic.
so I'm
Okay.
looking forward to that
Okay.
again. So
We are
thank
looking
you very
forward as
much.
well.
And if
Okay.
I miss these Bible studies, it's because my life is just crazy, but I love them and I'm watching them on the podcast because I'm learning so much. It's amazing.
It shows, Jennifer. It shows.
Yeah. Thank you,
Consider.
Jennifer.
All right. Well, we
We'll
will
look forward
see
to
you
seeing
soon
you.
then.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Guys,
See you.
good night, everybody.
Bye, Doug.
Good night, Jordana.
Bye. See you.